And now we're looking at insecurity in the southeast. We are pretty much familiar with that. But now it has gone beyond violence, and now we're facing issues of ethnic profiling. Now, in the studio with me today is Professor Okechukwu Oji. He is a political scientist to discuss insecurity in southeast Nigeria and politics of ethnic profiling. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, now before we start with this conversation, Nigeria and the rest of the world is mourning the death of our former president, Mohammadu Buhari. Now, upon hearing this news, how did you receive it? How did you feel, when you got this information?
Yes, I was saying that the spirit or feeling of foreboding with the death of President Buhari. That people might not love him so much. Others might like him and like his style of leadership. The major thing is that he represents the Nigerian nation, and he's been a two-time president, and he left a legacy of integrity, accountability, transparency, and people believe that he did well in that respect. If there are other areas people have mentioned in terms of administration, in terms of carrying the Nigerian public along, in terms of making a division, a demarcation from a military ruler and a civilian elected ruler, that maybe he didn't play the politics so well. But there's a balance in terms of the relationship that he had with the people that believed in him and maybe the Nigerian nation that he represents. But most importantly, he is known for integrity, accountability, and transparency, depending on how you look at those
But I
keywords.
just want to know personally, how would you assess his performance during his stay in office?
I need to maybe balance his performance. If it's in terms of, like I said, transparency, he did his best to be transparent. But there's a difference between the leadership people and maybe the people that are part of that leadership. So we'll be asking, where is the disconnect? Is it from him or his cohorts? But most importantly, I believe that he did well. Then there are other areas. If you ask me critically, I might say that with the youth, he did not do too well. Remember, the issue of NSADs came up under his time. Remember also that his remarks about the youth being lazy, and that was most insensitive of the president to be saying. Remember also his remarks, particularly with the people from the southeast, where he regarded them as a dot, one dot in a circle. And once you say that, it reminds me also of the concentric circles approach in foreign policy making. One, it determines what happens next. So if you are not able to hold on to your domestic affairs, the relationship with the larger public and the international community won't be very seamless, as you might say. So he did not do well with the youth. He did not do well with the Southeast. When you say that the rest of Nigeria and some other states gave him like 95%, and Southeast were giving him only 5%, and he got that description, like I said, of the dots. But one thing I'll say about him is that he had courage. For him to make such assertion openly shows courage. For him to say that the very popular one that got viral, that he belongs to everybody, he does not belongs to nobody. So that shows his character, that shows his value traits, that shows his principle, formation of his principles, and that has influenced his policies in government.
All right, now let's come down to Southeast, to our topic of the day, insecurity in Southeast Nigeria and politics of ethnic profiling. Now, first of all, what would you say has been the general security situation in the Southeast over the last few years?
It's been bad. I remember reading an article from somebody who said that prior to the coming of maybe the past president who just passed away, the Southeast was peaceful to a large extent in terms of banditry, in terms of violent crimes, in terms of terrorism, in terms of efforts, gravitations towards insurrection, in terms of external aggression, from people from outside trying to influence in terms of farmer headers issue, in terms of kidnappings and disruptions in the polity. So Southeast has been like that, and it's a fulcrum of what we are saying and what we are seeing is that Southeast seems to be an insecure area. People are scared about coming to the Southeast. Southeasterners too are equally scared about coming home at times, but there's nowhere like home. Maybe in the course of our discussions, we can find ways through which can establish confidence and trust that might make people want to come back to the Southeast and be part of it. But we know, just like the rest of Nigeria, that Southeast has experienced and still experiences a large measure of insecurity.
But what would you say are the main causes of this insecurity in the Southeast?
Like I pointed out, it depends on perceptions of certain people and individuals. But it depends on goings on, happenings that you see. So the main causes can be related to so many other issues. It can be related to crime within the polity, crime within persons within the area. It can equally be related to crime from external influence. When you have people who claim to be headers, for instance, and they are distorting confidence with the public and the communities they've come to, of course, you won't sleep with one eye open. You can't really have a modicum of a good rest. So there are causes coming from these extraneous factors. There are equally causes coming from maybe agitations from people of the Southeast who feel, let me use the word, marginalized. There are equally those who believe in self-pity, who believe in victim mentality. There are equally people who believe that it might be as a result of ethnic profiling and discontent and maybe ethnic rivalry, where people try to suppress the good efforts of the Southeast to have full independence and to equally partake in the economic well-being of the country. Southeasterners are known for being gregarious. They are known for working hard. But when you have a situation where people are now confined to their homes and not being able to come out on established days, where people certain days, for instance, people still do not come out properly. I was moving around yesterday, maybe from my village down to town and back. I noticed that people are now moving based on the confidence that have been ensured and restored by the government and other key actors. But still, there's still an element of fear amongst the people. So these things have arisen. One, like I pointed out, is external aggression. Two, based on certain individuals within the Southeast who want to embark on get-rich-quick syndrome. Three, the incidence of kidnappings, armed robbery. Next is the incident of maybe violent crimes, other violent crimes, rapings, killings, maimings, and so on. But most importantly, the agitations by certain Southeasterners who feel that they are marginalized in the scheme of things in Nigeria, and they want an entity, an area, a region that will have basic freedom and it will be fully emancipated from the rest of the Nigerian nation.
All right, now looking at this ethnic profiling, now how does it play out, when it comes to the Southeast and insecurity?
Yes. And when somebody shows a measure of hatred where you are, somebody hates you as a person, not because of your behavior. Maybe you must have done something wrong. If you do something wrong, somebody can decide, okay, you've done something wrong, I might hate you because of the fact that they are not conforming to expected norms and value systems of the system, and value systems of governance and the administration. Somebody can decide to punish you for that errant behavior. But when somebody has this perception in his view that coming from a certain ethnic group, that you are bad, and he sees you as bad, and he goes all out to even use all the instruments around him to try to curtail your movement, to try to punish you as a result of these things, then it can become ethnic profiling. And they use the organs of government, the instruments of government, security instruments, security apparatus, to even curb your movement, curtail your movement. We see it in the stop and search issues that you see the police doing. You see it in the military presence on the roads and so on. And all these ones are, we believe that as a result of insecurity that you see all such things. But we know that in some cases, that right inside their mind, they thought their thoughts. Some people might hate you because you come from the southeast, whether you see your tribe as Igbo, and there might be reasons, incipient hatred that's been there over the years, why some people hate certain people and profile them. And when they are seen anywhere, even in terms of cross-border communications, in terms of cross-border trade, in terms of migration trends and so on. Once you see somebody, you label him a troublemaker, and you profile him based on his ethnic origin, not necessarily because he has done something bad. And there are other instances you can see, when the youths, you see some youths, they move about. You stop and search, you seize their telephones, you go through it, you search their wallets, you search their vehicles. It connotes a part of profiling, which might not go well for the Nigerian state.
All right, but what about in situations where we find people from the same group profiling themselves?
Yes, it happens. These are because people might want to take advantage of certain situations to propagate various interests. Those interests could be pecuniary. It could be as a result of corruption. It could be as a result of marginalization in terms of community interests. You might find somebody from certain communities having a problem with people from other communities. You might equally find people who believe that in terms of social aggregation, in terms of social engineering and interactions, that the other person does not meet up to what he sees as being elegant. And because of that, he might find ways to debase the basic interests of that person and profile him. It might be also what we call those interests that we see. Let me use the Igbo parlance, onye kuloto, and they feel that you are challenging their status in the society and that you're not allowing them to progress the way they want to do so. They equally find a way through the security apparatus, profile you and denigrate you. So you find certain reasons why, that are some of the reasons why people go ahead to impugn the character of their brothers in the inverted commas and make sure that they deal with them. In other words, they are personal, they are group-based, they are community-based, and it's as a result of the struggle for you to have a better say and a better standing in the national equation.
All right, now looking at the various cases we've had, of insecurity and violence, we had the Ehamufu situation. We also have some other areas where that have been attacked by headsmen or known gunmen. And then we also find some of the leaders in these communities or in these states, when they come out and say that the people who perpetrate these acts are the youths in that same community or in that same village or area. So what does that say about both the government, in charge of that area and the people too?
Let me attribute it to one of my regard as power struggle. And when some people want power, they want it at all costs. It's not necessarily the Machiavellian approach that you might decide to use. It might be the Pluto analysis of making life brutish and short. In other words, the Machiavellian approach will say the end justifies the means. And what you see that the result of fact that people will use any mood, any way to make sure that they bring down other people. The idea of commonality, the idea of communal livings is to ensure that we have one thing in common. That thing in common might be our value systems, it might be our culture, it might be our norms, it might be those principles and character that bind us together. It might even become a situation of ideology, an ideological movement where people move together based on their views and perceptions and their belief patterns and systems. These are some of the things that you see. But people, in order to have power at all costs, will adopt any measures and advance any measures. And these are people who are supposed to be at the forefront of the leadership equation. These are people who are supposed to be leaders of certain communities and societies that we know. But when you have a situation where, for instance, there's a rivalry between the traditional stool and maybe the government-appointed leaders where they put PG, President Generals of Community, it can lead to that kind of situation where you have certain people who seem to be aspiring to grab power at all costs. You might have that kind of situation. Then when you have a situation where some governments, certain governments, might not equally understand the basic dynamics of the problem in that area, and they move in without taking time to digest the issues and finding out and balancing the problems, it might lead to that situation. But when you find a situation where there's a quick response, for instance, in Enugu State where we are now, and you find that the government has a quick response measure and zero intolerance to such moves and divisive tendencies by certain communities and societies and groups. And you wonder what actually exacerbates these issues. The government has responded, the community seemingly have responded, but there are certain interests that want to divide the society so that they can use the divide and rule system to achieve certain ends. So we must look beyond it. Then most importantly also, the message sent by leaders, and if you're a leader, you have to be very tactical, diplomatic, and check the words and statements that you make. If, for instance, a leader says there's no problem here, this problem is caused by certain elements, and without verifying, actually verifying what the issues are, it might send bad signals. So there's a need for us to adopt a quick response measure, but there's equally a need for government and those at the corridors of power, not just the government, because if you're a traditional ruler, you're at the corridor of power. If you're a PG, you're at the corridor of power. If you're an elder, what in Scotland people call Unishi, you're at the corridor of power. So if you have an opportunity to make sure that your service is to humanity and to your people, you must be seen to be doing it, not just in words, but actually in deed. So, and you command so much respect. But once you send the wrong vibes or the wrong signals, the reactions might be such that the people might not be able to grasp with the measure with which it will come. And people will keep on wallowing in a quagmire. What is the cause of this issue? Is it the issue of external influence? Is it from within? Is it as a result of group interest? Is it as a result of government interest in such area? So we need to actually analyze and digest certain issues before we make certain assertions and before we can devise effective strategies to tackle the issues as they come.
All right. Now, earlier on, you mentioned marginalization as part of the ethnic profiling. Now, let's bring it down now. Since we are talking about the Southeast, we know that the Southeasterners, the Igbo people, have for the longest time been complaining of being marginalized. Now, how would you say that the people in the Southeast have been stereotyped or maybe or unfairly targeted when it comes to the nation generally, national conversations or actions?
You know, at times what you see might form your opinion on issues. but the truth is there. You can't wash away the truth. If the Southeast have been accommodated in scheme of things in this country, no, personally, I do not think so. We look at the various geopolitical zones, which have now adopted 6 geopolitical zones. Southeast is the only zone that has only 5 states. Others are 6, and one zone is even 7. Southeast is 5, and it affects us, both in terms of political representation, in terms of party politics, because if you don't have enough membership or representatives, it will whittle your clout and your power in the national scheme of things. So when Scoutists look, and you see even the appointments that you see down the ladder, you find that Southeast is not there. At times, when you even check on the security apparatus or system of the country, you begin to look at head of various security, and people will be saying this is from this area, this from this area. The Southeast, who are mainly Igbos, you'll be thinking whether there's an Igbo man, for instance. You look at the chief of naval staff. It's only recently that government has made so much noise, and people now see, oh, we even have an Igbo man. Maybe because of his name. People never knew that he's an Igbo man. But the Southeast, they feel it's not enough. They feel that they need to have more appointments than they need to have more representations. You get to National Assembly, because of the local governments that we see, you find some states having 44 local governments, 38 local governments, 37 local governments. And you come to Enugu, for instance, it's 17. You move to Ebonyi, it's 13. You come to Anambra, it's about 19 or 21, then Imo maybe 23. And it is still not enough. Just one local government has more representatives in particular states like Kano, Jigawa, than the Southeast put together. So the Southeast feel marginalized. Is it even a form of population? The Southeast has enough population, those living in Southeast and those in diaspora and those in even other areas. And when there's a population census, the state of origin column is whittled down. They will tell you to register where you are, your place of abode. But if there's a situation where people register and they declare their tribe or state of origin, it will help a lot in determining the population of the Southeast. Now, some people feel, if school of thought believe also, that in terms of voting, that diaspora voting should come into place. The diaspora voting will ensure that even the Southeast, a lot of them will be able to vote because most of them live outside the confines of the territories of this country. And you look at diaspora remittances, you find that a lot of money coming into the Nigerian nation from the diaspora from outside, and a lot of Southeasterners contribute so much to what is happening. You go around the country, you have no place you go, you don't see Southeasterners. But at the end of the day, not much is given to Southeasterners. And that's why I believe personally that has increased the separatist tendencies of the people of the area, the agitations to have their own nation. Whether it is Biafra that people are quarreling in, or whether it's Igbo nation that people are quarreling with, or whether it is Southeast at a nomenclature that people are quarreling with. The basic fact is that the Southeasterners feel disenfranchised in terms of so many issues, using that word technically. And they feel that there's no basic element to bring them into the fabric of the Nigerian state. And the idea is that if you are not bringing me into the fabric of the Nigerian state, let me go. And that is where you have some of these agitations. So my belief is that there should be efforts, gravitations to ensure that the Southeasterners remain relevant, that they are, and they are participate in constructively and equitably in the going on within the Nigerian state.
All right. Now, speaking of the agitations that are rising up due to this issue of marginalization, would you say that it has contributed to the issue of insecurity that we have in the Southeast currently?
Yes, you can't run away from it because I said that there are certain elements who take advantage, who work under the guise that they are, what I call it, nationalists. And because of that, they are working for the interests of the Southeast, being a separate group. And they take advantage of it to perpetuate mayhem, to perpetuate brigandage, to perpetuate maimings, killings, even of their own people, because they feel that these people are there forming a stumbling block to the realization of their ambition, or even to achieving what they have in mind. So even within those elements, within those states, there are elements, some miscreants who work under the guise of nationalists. I'm using the word nationalists because these people are agitators and they want to have self-determination and self-rule. Now people fall under that cloak and use it to perpetrate certain crimes for their basic selfish aggrandizement, their basic self-interest. So what they're asking is individual self-determinism, not as a caucus, not as a group, not as a community, not as a region, but they have personal ambition and they want to perpetuate it for their basic interest. So people take advantage of it and hide under their guise to do whatever they want to do.
All right. And now also you mentioned about Nigerians in the diaspora, and due to the insecurity, a lot of them are scared to come back, and those that are here are also looking forward to living to a safer environment, quote unquote. So now, how do you think we can address this issue as a people, this issue of insecurity, to the point where even our people are scared to be in their own home?
Okay, let me try to understand and appreciate what you mean as a people. Is it as the people of
As a
Nigeria?
people
Or
of
people
both
of
southeast, both
good.
southeast, yes.
Okay, okay, combination of both.
Yeah.
Yes, whatever happens in the southeast should bother the Nigerian nation because it is part of the Nigerian nation. If people in the southeast feel happy, the Nigerian nation should feel happy. If they feel sad over developments and issues, the Nigerian nation should equally feel so. That is why we're part of this country. When there was a civil war, and at the end of the civil war, people went home with so many feelings, disenchantment, discord, and a feeling of victimization. That's why we use the word victim mentality. They feel they've been injured, they've been deprived of that who they were looking for, that in the Nigerian nation. But they lost the war. They lost the war, but they needed integration. And that's why the Nigerians at that time came up with the concept of the 3 R's. Where we are talking about reconstruction, we're talking about rehabilitation, and we're talking about reconciliation. Now, if you feel that something has happened to you, there's a school of thought who believe that what happened in Rwanda should be replicated in Nigeria. What happened even in South Africa, Desmond Tutu and the Peace and Reconciliation Committee should equally be replicated in Nigeria, where people will come out openly and talk about what has affected them, and at the end of the day, they will try to amend ways and their bitterness will go away. The Nigerian nation still sees, to me, I feel, I could be wrong, but to me, I feel that the rest of the Nigerian state still sees that territorial entity, hitherto known as Biafra, particularly the Southeast. Well, remember that Nigeria goes beyond the Southeast. So the Southeast, Biafra is the Southeast, South, including the South of Delta and so on. They still see them as people that are conquered. That's the perception I talked about earlier. Once you're able to erase such perception, and that their feeling of reconciliation, and there is that feeling of rehabilitation, and there's a good feeling of reconstruction of the destruction that had happened here, it will be good. But when you find that most of reconstruction, not reconciliation, it's not, but most of reconstruction has been done by the people themselves through personal efforts or self-help and so on, it brings in a problem. The people will need to see the Nigerian nation doing what they feel that they should do to rehabilitate them in the Nigerian polity. Now, people from outside, there have been a lot of stories. Even stories by the time you watch maybe the movies coming out from mainly the Southeast, what you call the
Nollywood.
Nollywood,
okay.
Sorry, the Nollywood. You watch our movies, the representations that you see seem to be that of, let me say, bad behavior, bad manners at times. But in some cases, it ends in joy. People go through it, and at the end of the day, they find joy. That's the kind of thing we want to see happening. We've seen people behaving in ways that are untoward. We've seen people that are ill-mannered, who seem to bestride the political scene and the social scene within the Southeast, even the religious scene within the Southeast. But these are bad elements. People have been able to draw a line between good and bad. That's what every human being, every child is taught as you're growing, the growing process and the socialization processes that you embark on. And because it is so, people abroad, when they watch these movies, when they hear the stories, when they hear the reportage from the press, feel that it is not a safe place, I don't want to go home. People who have equally experienced the brutish tendencies of some elements from within and from outside, equally have a feeling that once I need to go out, and if I go out, I'm not coming back again. Then the young ones who have experienced, just like the rest of Nigeria, insecurity, unemployment, and they don't think that there's any future. These are people that belong to the class that are all jabba. They will run away from Nigeria. And they'll tell you they won't come back. But it's not true. There is no place like home. A lot of people who even live abroad, who have lived there 50 years, 40 years, are all looking for ways to come home. Even what is happening in the United States with Trump policies, so it's equally increasing that feeling. Let me come home. Then if you come home, what will you do? You must sit back. You as a right-thinking person, you must join in making your place a better place. Nobody has a monopoly of violence. That is where you see some neighborhoods coming up. The youth, even some elders, are joining those neighborhood groups to ensure that there's peace, there's security within their community. People are offering some effective plans to government. This is a roadmap through which you can achieve peace. Because don't just leave it for government. I said, right-thinking citizen of the country have an obligation to fulfill certain that, and you have to fulfill those obligations. Most of what foremost is to join government in providing certain basic needs for the people, particularly security. Because once you don't have security, you won't be happy in the system.
No, okay.
Sorry.
All right. But aside, because we are running out of time, but okay, aside from the issue of security, what about the issue of ethnic profiling? What can we do? Is there anything, that can be done to reduce this issue we are having now of profiling?
Let me, just like I try to conclude, let me talk about fear. If you are doing ethnic profiling, you bring in fear amongst the people. And once there's fear, there will be lack of trust. Government will not have it easy, because once people do not believe in government, public opinion is agog with the feelings of government. It won't work. The way we can do it, I believe, is that there's need for synergy, not just in terms of inter-agency collaboration, but in terms of people coming together to ensure that the fear is erased from the polity, and that everybody must join hands to ensure a better Nigeria and a better Southeast. In terms of profiling, like I said, the perception of people, I believe that the people of Southeast are already making noise. They should make more noise. I believe that the governments of Southeast must authenticate those views and validate those issues, those views of people as already expressed, those expressions of people, and work hard towards ensuring that anybody that does ethnic profiling is punished for such a thing. There must be laid down rules and recommendations that are made by the people to nip it in the bud, and that people must be vocal to speak out against it and work towards it, because it's not good to just bring out certain people and profile them as deviants, as bad, when they are not bad. But those that are bad should be punished for being bad.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time in this conversation. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Signature TV. News in your pocket.